Read.
Verse 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature.
What are their nature? The nature is them being a wild man. Read.
And if
Now,
they
and
shall,
how do we know these dragons are the Middle Easterns? Let's go to the book of Malachi to show you who these dragons are. The book of Malachi, right before Matthew, the precepts will break it down on who these dragons are. Malachi, the first chapter, that's the one I want. And I need you to read 1 and 3. Read.
Malachi chapter 1 verse 3. And I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste, for the dragons of the wilderness.
For the dragons of the wilderness. To let you know, Esau will be fighting against the dragons of the wilderness. And in the scriptures, when you read here, it's going to tell you about the dragons of Arabia. Let's go back to 2nd Esdras, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you left off at there.
Verse 33.
33, go ahead.
Excuse me, verse 32. Then these shall be troubled and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them.
You see it. 32. Read 32 on down. Go ahead.
Verse 32. Then these shall be troubled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee.
To show you that there will be regime changes and people fleeing from their countries. That's what you see now in the Middle East, where the king is leaving his country. Read.
Verse 33. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them. And in their hosts shall be fear and dread, and strife among their kings.
So you got strife among the kings in the Middle East right now. Now this was written thousands of years before this is happening now. You got strife amongst the leaders in the Middle East. This is what we're reading, exactly the time period we're standing in right now. Read.
Verse 34. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth.
When it says stars upon the earth, mind you, back then they didn't have the technology to see a missile going from one place to the next. So what Esdras is seeing here is a future missile that looks like a star going from one city to the next city. So he's relating it to something that he's seen back then. But it's future tense. He's seeing missiles being shot in the Middle East. That's what we see now. Read.
Even their own star.
Go ahead.
And blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and dung of men unto the camel's hoof.
That lets you know what location this battle will be. Camels are in the Middle East. Read.
Verse 37. And there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth, and they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them.
Go ahead.
And then shall there come great storms from the south and from the north.
Storms are insurrections or clouds from war. Read.
And another part from the west. And strong winds shall arise from the east, and shall open it. And the cloud which he raised up in wrath, and the stars stirred to cause fear toward the east and the west wind shall be destroyed. The great and mighty cloud shall be lifted up full of wrath, and the star that they make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein. And they shall pour out over every high and eminent place and horrible star.
Talking about nuclear hits and bombs. Read.
Verse 41. Fire and hell and flying swords.
Fire and hell and flying swords. These are missiles. Middle East. Read.
And many waters, that all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills, trees of the wood, and grass of the meadows, and their corn.
Now that's how strong the nuclear missiles are. Read.
Verse 43. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon.
They shall go steadfastly unto where?
And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon, and make her afraid.
So these wars will stop in the Middle East and go directly into America. So that's where this is leading. Okay, so they're going to deal with Iran, and then Iran is going to grab a few of those Middle Eastern countries that's against America, along with the other countries they're in league with, and the missiles will go straight forth from Babylon to make it afraid. Read.
Verse 44. They shall come to her, and besiege her, The star and all wrath shall they pour out upon her. Then shall the dust and smoke go up unto the heaven, and all they that be about her shall bewail her.
So all those that worshipped America and looked at America as the greatest place on earth will cry for her. This bewailing links directly to Revelations 18 and 9. Read.
Verse 45. And they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear.
So then, all the power for a time will shift to Asia. Why? Because Asia got the stock market that's prepared for America's stock market to fall. Read.
Verse 46. And thou, Asia.
And then it says Asia. Now the Most High is going to point his destruction towards Asia. So we know America is going to go down first. And then the Most High is going to point towards China. Because why? China made herself like unto Babylon. That's how she became great. China once had honor and dignity. But then it started dealing with the corporate structure of America and brought out America and made themselves a Times Square. And they started giving their women up to the system the way America do. It's going to tell you that. Read.
And thou, Asia, thou art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person.
It says, because you are the glory of her person, you've made yourself like unto her. Read.
Verse 47. Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her.
Go ahead.
And hast decked thy daughters in whoredom.
And because you've decked your daughters in whoredom, now you got your daughters running around like the Americans. Remember when Chinese people used to be almost as pious as some of the Arabs? Fully dressed. You can hardly see them. They walking behind their man and walking slow, and you can hardly see them. Now look at them. Pink hair, blue hair. They out there now. So now the Most High first he's going to point to the middle. He's going to point to the Middle East first, which he's doing now. The destruction going to hit America. Now America is on fire. Now the Most High said, I got to take out China, because America done moved their mindset to Asia. They moved all the things they do, their stock market and everything. China made everything after America. They patterned themselves. Their technology and everything is after America. So now he got to knock out the next, what you would call monetary stable country that will continue America's rule. Read.
And hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee.
Go ahead.
Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions.
You have followed her in all thy works and thy inventions. So China haven't originated anything. Everything they make is a knockoff of America products or other people's products. Read on.
Therefore saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. And the glory of thy power shall be dried up as a flower, when the heat shall arise that is sent over thee. Thou shalt be weakened as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastised with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive thee.
So they're going to be plagued. So the Most High is going to send a plague on them, in which other people will not be able to, you will not be able to actually be around them. The Most High is going to plague them with some type of disease. That's going to happen in China. So that's going to happen to them. And then last but not least, what people are going to fight against Christ himself? Like I mentioned last week, Europe is going to fight against Christ. The 10 horns, because once that happens, all power comes back to the EU and NATO. In Europe, because Europe is really the superpower in which all this wickedness comes from. Europe is the place that made America. When Christ returns, they're going underwater. All right? So, what we need to do is start thinking about the Most High, and what we need to do coming together. And you brothers got to stand up and continue the thing here while we set up in other places and become priests for the Most High. And we have to really think about setting a place in which we'll be okay once this economy crashes. Okay, because our money will be worth nothing very soon. So if we don't have physical substance to live on with no preparation, it's going to be rough. So that's what we need to come together about. We need to come together about thinking what happens in a worst case scenario. Some people say, well, I'm going to store food in my house. What happens when somebody comes to your house with a gun and say, leave your house? Some people say, well, I'm going to store silver and gold. Well, what happens when somebody put a gun to you and say, give me your silver and your gold? What happens to that? All right? And even if you had silver and gold, you can't eat silver and gold. So if you got a system in which there's no money because they're introducing the mark of the beast, they're going into an electronic system here. Reading this, an electronic system. So if you have an electronic system, how can you spend? You got your silver and your gold. How will you get water? That means you got to cash in your physical substance for credits on your chip. That means you must receive a mark of the beast. Now these things are going to happen based on a lot of disasters and things going on in the earth. They're not going to be able to print money. They're moving everything into an electronic system. So that will happen in the midst of all these things we've discussed. So if we don't prepare and get ourselves someplace near where we need to be and throw our finances together for that, then we're going to be taken. All right? We'll see you all next week. Bless you.